Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ranking Member. And thank you, Mr. Cordray, for being here testifying again today. And certainly we have asked you a wide array of questions ranging from credit to payday lending, a little bit about CFPB, and the list goes on and on. And so the good and bad news is I'm going to add to that list. But one of the things that we talked about when you were here before in the last Congress, we talked about credit reports. And now after having the opportunity to look through your document and seeing on, I'm going to reference, Mr. Chairman, page 28, when we look at the number of complaints and the things with constituents, 76 talked about incorrect information. And then when you look at the other pies on your chart, it made me want to ask the question, because on this committee, we talk about a whole host of things, and whether it's on our housing subcommittee, whether it's on working with banks, it all comes back to your credit. And what you put into that investment in credit. If you go to purchase a home, or if you're starting a business, and yet we're finding out that oftentimes the information is incorrect on there, and it becomes almost impossible to the lay consumer or constituent to get that removed or get it changed. So you talked about tools, a lot about tools today. Can you give us any update or information on what we can say back to our constituents about that?
Yeah. And frankly, you and I may be more sensitive to this issue because it's our hometown newspaper, the Columbus Dispatch, has done some of the best investigative reporting on the issue of credit reports, credit scores, and accuracy. That's something that we've been looking at very carefully and thoroughly at the Bureau. We're the first agency ever anywhere to be able to examine and go in and really get this sense of how things work within the three big national credit reporting agencies. And that's led to changes already. They used to have a paper-based process that was reduced to a 3-digit number for correcting errors on your account if you wanted to submit a dispute, and they didn't necessarily pass the paper on to the furnisher that originally supplied the information. We've worked with them to change that process. It is now changed. Your information will go so that the furnisher can see what the basis for the dispute is. It's not reduced to a 3-digit number. That's a significant improvement. We also indicated late last year that we would begin requiring regular credit reporting accuracy reports, akin to call reports to the banks, that we're moving forward with. And we're doing a great deal of work around improving accuracy on these numbers. The other thing we're doing that I think is important is we've been encouraging the Open Credit Score Initiative, which a few lenders got started with FICO, and now has grown to more than 50 million Americans now have free access to their credit scores on their credit card bills and other potential loan documents. That's going to create a lot more awareness on behalf of the public that this is my information and it matters to me, and it may be changing and I need to find out more about it. I think that's going to be a sea change for the entire industry, and that's something that we're really encouraged about. As consumers know more, as they can stand up for themselves more, they will be getting more response from these companies, and we also are putting pressure on to see to it that that happens.
Thank you. To you, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Cordray, my last question is, this past week I've had a lot, as all of us, we've had a lot of people come in to see us, and this whole issue with cyber threats. Is there any more that maybe you haven't said or I did not hear? We've had a lot of our community banks and regional banks folks to come in and say, with the number of credit cards that are being compromised, and I know firsthand because I used my credit card and went to pay the bill, and the bank, my private banker said to me, oh, there's something wrong with your credit card. Now, I was pretty sure that was inaccurate until she told me it had been compromised, and so they cut it in two. Well, so then that was the good news. My sister's was compromised that same day, but someone had used hers repeatedly to the thousands of dollars. Now, the banks are telling me they're making that whole versus the Neiman Marcus or the Targets or wherever you used it, get off free. Any thoughts on what we should say back to our bankers?
I know that this has been a subject of potential legislation by the Congress, and I know people talk about how powerful this agency is, but when it comes to merchants and security of the information, that's not something we have authority over. There's a battle going on between the merchants and the banks who should bear the cost of these kind of breaches. Everybody's going to have to do a better job, and there's improvements coming in card security and other things. But I could just say it's a big problem. It affects consumers, affects all of us.
Time of the gentlelady has expired.